Good morning, everyone. It's so great to be back. I was just realizing that because of the way that this trip that several of us took to Australia landed, we missed 3 Sundays, and it was a week before that I was here. So I'm just coming back into the temple and into this energy of all of you for the first time in a month. And I was just asking myself, is there any way for me to really tell them how great it feels to come home? And because my puppy Max ate my glasses, it's a welcome home present for me. I can't really see you. I don't know who's here, but but what's so important is that honestly, it doesn't matter. The energy is so beautiful. Just listening to the music, to the deep attunement of the people who are singing this music. I wasn't going to start speaking here, but I will. We spent 2 truly just beautiful, inspiring, uplifting weeks in Australia. And we will have a satsang about that a week from today, if anybody wants to come. And it's not just, oh, we did this and we did that. We did do this and that. But it's the energy that we found there that will be so wonderful to share. So I hope a lot of you choose to come. But we did a 3-day Kriya retreat, which was wonderful. And then after that, throughout the next week, we did 3 outside programs. Outside means 2 programs at a hospital that was really part of a conglomerate. So it wasn't just the people of the hospital that were there, but anybody associated with them could tune in online. And then we did a program at the Lions Club. And when I heard that at first, it was one of those moments where I said to myself, don't let anything show on your face, because I'm thinking the Lions Club. But it turns out the Lions Club in Australia is a club that does very great work, and they're scattered throughout the country, and they're well-loved, and they're just, we'll talk about it more in a week. However, none of these people, the Lions Club has nothing to do with spirituality as we would think of it. And actually, it has to be, you can't go in there and talk about God. You're actually not allowed to, and they let you know that. Of course, the same was true in the hospitals. I was very familiar with hospitals, so that was easier for me. I sort of walked in and I was like, home. It's just how I felt, the smells and the gurneys. And so I was very relaxed. But the Lions Club was the first program that we did. And we were a group of 7 that went. And then there were the Australians and people from New Zealand. So the other 6 were going to be singing. And they were going to be singing The Secret of Laughter. Because again, we had to choose a song that didn't directly talk about God. And I stood up to talk first. And it was the hardest crowd, hardest I had ever spoken to. And I'm speaking all about energy and transformation. And I'm saying to myself, this is not going well. I need to do something here. And this determination to be able to communicate with these people and to share enthusiasm and energy, and whether they knew it or not, have their hearts open, was so strong in me. And after about 15 minutes, I just could feel the whole room, all of us. It was like we were rising and coalescing. And anyway, the talk went very well then, and they were very happy about it. Then the group of 6 get up to sing, and I said to them, which is very much about this reading, you know, the words to this song that you're about to hear are beautiful, but don't try and listen to them, because if you listen to them, you'll be in your head sort of trying to follow along. Feel this song. Feel the energy of the song and go with it. And so the singers told me when they first started singing, they had that same feeling because everybody immediately gets tight. It's unfamiliar music. So they're watching people go like this. And they did. They were behind me, but I could feel it. And then they said, but after about a verse, maybe when it came to the first lure, lure, lero, I mean, who could not smile or laugh? They just opened. I mean, it was such a beautiful example. It was a very deep, meaningful, successful night. Successful means everybody was moved. Everybody got caught in the energy and felt a kind of joyfulness and connectedness that's truth. They went to that place of truth. And I was just thinking of it today because of this music here, but the reading is so much about that. If you try and figure it out, they were listening too hard to me. They were going to try and hear the words or resist the newness. But as soon as they could relax and just move more into their hearts, every person in that room was deeply affected. It was so beautiful. I was so grateful to Swamiji. And I know now, because this happens to me all the time, I won't be able to grab the phrase from this last beautiful song, Mother of Wisdom, but the line that says, how many years so proud of our wisdom, turning from God, we wandered alone, because that's what being in our head does. Now our soul calls thee. Our soul, it's at a soul level that we know this. Somebody help me out here. Make us thy own, thank you. It's so beautiful. Our souls are open. They're calling you. We're now ready. Make us thy own. Move us to that place of truth. Swamiji, that line that Swamiji says here, when he says about the intellectual hair splitting, I love that phrase. It just creates such an image of hair splitting. Imagine how much time and energy it takes to split a hair. So, and yeah, that's why he used that phrase. I had an experience that just came back to me as I was sitting in the minister's room. In Israel, there's a place, a temple. It's a little church. It's not, a little temple, but it's not anything big. It's surprising how small it is, where King David's body is there, lies in rest. When you walk back this hallway to get to where his body is, on the left are all of these study rooms, and they are filled with little tables around which 3 or 4 rabbis sit. I've come to know that everybody in Israel who's an Orthodox Jew is a rabbi. So it means many of the Orthodox Jews are sitting there. And they have these little things called yads that are pointers. They actually have a little hand on the end of them with a finger pointing, and they touch the words of the Torah as they're studying it. And you walk and you see these rooms. And this is what I grew up with, watching rabbis sit around tables, study, argue, debate. They are big debaters. They're smart. They're very smart. But they are so in their heads, so many of them. So we walk by them, and you come to King David's tomb. I mean, you wouldn't expect that there's nothing in the room except the tomb. So, and it's small. Maybe 6 people can fit in it. And the wall that's beside it doesn't go all the way to the ceiling. So it's just it's a wall, but it's more like a screen. On the other side of it is a tiny little temple where people come to pray. So I just remembered this today, but it's so right. We're walked by the rabbis who are studying and debating. You come in and you sit near King David, and instantly I was drawn into such a deep place. It's very powerful. I was certain that he was really there and his energy was there. And Asha told me later that Swamiji had said that he felt like it was the real thing. But I felt it. So, and suddenly I hear screaming, yelling, not screaming, on the other side of this wall. And I hear this voice going, get out right away. It was mean. And this other voice is saying, but I just wanted to come in to pray. I felt drawn. You are not allowed in here. You are wearing a cross. Get out. And I thought to myself, here we are, sandwiched between the intellectual hair splitting, the ego, and the, I really want to find this line where Swamiji says that. Why can't I find it? The reading's not even that long. Anyway, because he says, darn it, I'm sorry, but I can't. But he talks about where that intellectual hair splitting leads you. And that's what was going on. And here was King David, beautiful king to the Jewish people, I mean, a long time before, with all of that heart, and yet all of this study in the world was not going to get them there. Here's this man who wanted to come and pray, and he was being forced out because he was wearing a cross. It was very powerful for me, obviously. Years later, it just came back. I wanted to share another relevant story. There are so many stories that floated in last night. I could talk for hours about them because they're so perfect. But I've told this story here before, but I think it's been many years. My very first year of medical school, you're assigned patients. And mostly it's pretty terrifying because for most people, they don't know anything. They've either never been in a hospital or it's been under very stressful circumstances. I, of course, have I would say, by the grace of God, I had been a nurse for 14 years. I was very comfortable in hospital. But still, my very first patient I'm ever going to see as a Stanford medical student and needing to present the case, that's what they call it, present the case, not talk about the person, to all of these attendings later that day. Excuse me. So they said to me, this woman is very sick. And okay, so you're supposed to go in and you have an hour with the person and you do what's called a history and a physical. So you take a medical history, social history, family history, then you examine them, you write it all up. So I walk in, I ask the nurses on the ward, where is she? They said, oh, I don't know if you want to go in there. And I said, well, I was assigned to go in there. and feeling a little more meek than I should have, given my age and my comfort in hospital. But I was carrying this "you're just beginning" consciousness with me. They said, she has no will to live, none. She's very sick. Every specialist has been in to see her. They keep trying things. She was 80 years old, by the way. She's just exhausted. So I said, okay. So I go in, and I'm saying to myself, I walk in and I look at this woman. She was old. Of course, it felt much older then, but it's still old. And she's very sick and just withdrawn. And I thought to myself, what in the world am I doing here? All of these Stanford specialists have been here. I'm going to walk in and do this whole history from her again. What are your symptoms? What are they like? All the questions you have to ask. And exhaust her. And what am I going to add to this? Every smart person in one of the biggest and most renowned hospitals in the world has been here. Literally, that's what it was. I just walked in and I sat down beside her in a chair. And I said to her, how are you? Really, how are you doing? That woman started talking and talked to me for an hour. She talked the whole hour. At one point, I put my hand on her arm. I was always looking right at her. I was genuinely interested in what she was saying. And when the hour was up, I said, I'm going to need to go. I have a class now. And she said, I'm so sorry to see you go. Anyway, I leave totally freaked out in a way, because what am I going to write? I spent an hour caring about this woman. Did I think anybody at Stanford wanted to hear that? Of course not. Anyway, it was not pretty. It was not well received that I didn't have a case to present. 2 days later, I come back to see her, and the room is empty and the bed is stripped. And my heart just sank. Of course, I was sure she died. So I went to the nurse's station and I said, what happened? And they said, it was remarkable. It was like a miracle, they said to me. I mean, I can still see those nurses. They said, you left. That evening, she insisted that we call the doctors. We haven't seen her look like this in weeks. And she told the doctors, I'm leaving. Sign me out or I'm leaving against medical advice. I'm ready to go home. And that night, they sent her home. It was healing. It was curative, really, is what it was. The best minds in medicine were there. They had all of the intellectual hair splitting, but nothing worked until somebody sat with her, soul to soul, heart to heart, and she could find that place that we call truth, that we know as perfect love, the only place the true healing can happen. It's not with all of this studying. It's not that we don't need to read. It's not. I was remembering last night, Swami Kriyananda wrote the peace treaty when he was very young. I could get this wrong, but I think he was like 15 or 16. And it's brilliant. We watch it every year. It's very philosophical about politics and history, but it's philosophy informed by wisdom, philosophy informed by love. Even when he went first to Yogananda, though, we all know this, Yogananda said to him, you're very intellectual. We have to help you practice devotion. Learn to open the heart. And of course, Swamiji did. Every one of his books, no matter how philosophical they are, I'm doing that because I do have to admit there's a couple that I can't read. they're too philosophical for me. But I know if I could, I would feel his love, his devotion, true wisdom, God's love coming through it. So it's not that we want to be stupid, of course not, but we want all of that intellectual knowing, all of it, to be, again, just informed by true love, by true wisdom, and then it will work. I have a lot of stories, but I'll just tell you one more wonderful story. There's a woman, many of you have heard of her, Rachel Naomi Remens. She's an MD also, probably the only MD I ever met who came to medicine with the same kind of understanding that I would say I had. I had it by God's grace. I guess she had it by God's grace too. I mean, Yogananda just picked me up and put me there and taught me everything I never knew. Not the medicine, everything else I never knew. But she wrote a couple of books, Kitchen Table Wisdom, and then My Grandfather's Blessings. And they're wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful. So her grandfather is an Orthodox Jew who studied, ultimately, the Kabbalah, which is mystical Judaism. And those teachings are exactly our teachings. Different language, sound a little different, but the essence of them is the same. And she spent the first 7 years of her life with him. And you feel it in her. She was around this great, who I felt was a saint when I read so many stories about him and what he shared with her. It's all in her book. But one of the stories is that when he was still in Russia and he had his children, and Rachel's mother was one of those children, they were extremely poor. They had nothing. And it was very hard for them to practice their religion. And he was this Orthodox, basically, Jew. And, you know, one of the commandments is, thou shalt have no other God before me. And the Orthodox Jews interpreted that as no dolls. The little girls were not allowed to have dolls because they worshiped them, so the Orthodox Jews wouldn't allow it. And at some point in Rachel's life, she and her sister were visiting somebody, and this person gave them a little china doll. And they loved this doll. They had never had a doll. When they brought it home, her father, this is Rachel's mother, the grandfather, who's now helping Rachel know everything she needs to know to be who she was, takes the doll and in a fit of rage smashes it against the wall. And the mother was just devastated. Rachel says when her mother was telling her this story years later, she was still crying over the loss of that doll. But the grandfather said, I knew everything in the Talmud at that point, everything in the Torah. These are the great works for the Jewish people, the great written works. He said, but I didn't know God yet. I didn't know love. I didn't know truth. So all I had were those words. And he too would cry about breaking that doll. All of these stories just speak to the impossibility of following the intellect and thinking that we would ever find God. We cannot find him that way. We can learn a lot. We can debate a lot. We can fight with people a lot, expressing our opinions in many ways. And perhaps there's some good information in that. Very different than opening your heart and inviting the power of God in. The intellect is so limited. The power and the love of God are so unlimited. And that's the language of the soul. That's the way that we find true peace, true love, true contentment in life. We cannot get there any other way. So when we listen to music like this, it's just taking us there. When we listen to the whispers from eternity, we don't have to think about it. It's just taking us there. When we travel with 6 of our Guru Bhais and we go in love and with love, it can't go wrong. Nothing can go wrong. And every person that you meet along the way knows it. Because even without total perfection yet, for most of us, our intention was always to bring God's love. The intention here is to let God's energy, his voice, flow through us. And that is an energy that's irresistible. And that is the energy that we all need to say to ourselves, in how many more ways can I tune into that so that my soul begins to feel that sense of, this is home. This is perfect. Bless you all.
Long I've called you, my Lord. Long I've called you. Many years I have longed for your sight. Bathe the darkness with tears. thy vision, grant us thy peace. Our love receive, though blindly we pray. Silently guide our thoughts when we stray. How many years so proud of our wisdom, turning from God, we've wandered alone. So many years we've boasted but madness. Now our soul